Right, to talk more about this, we're joined by Lyle Horsely, Head of Fintech at the South African Reserve Bank. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we've just listened there to some of the reasons and, the motivation behind this. Talk to us about the purpose and the impact of the G20 Techsprint. What are you out to achieve?
Good evening, and thanks so much for having me. So the G20 Techsprint is really a global competition, right? Calling on innovators and disruptors from across the world to come together and deliver best-in-class technology solutions to help policymakers, central banks, the financial sector regulators solve for some of the problems and the challenges that we have prioritized from our side. And so the theme, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, was around trust and integrity in the financial sector, because these are really the foundational pillars for finance. And to bring people into the financial sector, they need to be able to trust that it will deliver on what it is intended to deliver on, and that there's integrity within the system, that there's not fraud and cyber attacks and so forth. And so our G20 Techsprint is really aimed at looking for those best-in-class solutions that will help us enhance these foundational pillars within the financial sector.
With the rapid pace of technological change, the role of artificial intelligence and so forth, comes the challenge of mitigating the risks of fraud and cyber attacks. What approach are you hoping participants will take? Because the bottom line, of course, is to build trust and integrity within the financial sector.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we are looking for out-of-the-box thinkers, right? We want those innovative solutions to come to the fore. We want people to think about cutting-edge technologies. But ultimately, we want people to really think about solving for these problems that we have put out there, and really solving for this in a real-world way that will make a meaningful difference. As the governor mentioned in his remarks, we want to bring people into the digital financial system, and we don't want people to be left behind. And to do that, you need to enable people to have trust that when they make a payment, the payment is going to reach someone that it's intended to reach. You need to have an identity that is verifiable, that's secure, that isn't subject to digital or identity fraud. And so we really want the innovators, we are challenging them to think about solutions in a creative way, to leverage technology in a creative way, but also one that is able to then solve for real-world impact.
How will this opportunity assist SMMEs? I mean, you talk a lot about innovation, developers, ideas. What role do SMMEs play?
So the one problem statement is specifically targeted at SMMEs around credit data portability. And this is really asking, how do we enable SMMEs to be able to consent to their data being shared, both within a domestic context, but also potentially cross borders, right? So if you're an SME and you would like to apply for a loan in a different jurisdiction, how can we enable you to share your data from the jurisdiction where you're based and share it across to that other financial institution, whether it's your credit history, whether it's a history of the transactions that you've made to show that you qualify for a loan. So that's the kind of, I think, use cases that we are looking to say, how can we enable these SMEs digitally to be able to share this data in a secure manner to enable them to access financial services. But really, I think all the problem statements speak to the SMEs as well, because to do anything within the financial sector, it typically starts with who are you, right? And so you need a digital, secure identity that's been verified that allows you to initiate those transactions, that says, I am who I say I am, and here's the proof, right? I don't need papers and a long drawn-out process. I can enable this digitally to where you need it to go. And then similarly with the fraud and the cyber risk problem statement, it speaks to how do we mitigate fraud and cyber risks in fast payment systems. Now, a fast payment system is really, I make a payment from me to you and it lands in your bank account within 10 seconds, right? So again, how do we enable SMMEs to transact digitally, to allow them to have a digital footprint of their transactions, to be able to then show their cash flow, to be able to apply for a loan and share that data potentially across borders. So really, I think all three problem statements are equally relevant to SMMEs.
And how does your collaboration with institutions like the Bank for International Settlements now pave the way for a more resilient and secure ecosystem?
So the BIS has been doing these tech sprints for the past 6 years, right? And so this is the sixth edition of the tech sprint. So they have a lot of experience in running these tech sprints. So this is really a collaborative effort with the BIS Innovation Hub. They've also done a few other projects that look at how can technology create a more resilient, a more inclusive financial system. So we've collaborated with them on Project Dunbar, for instance, 2 years ago, and that looked at using central bank digital currencies for cross-border payments. And so the collaboration that we've been able to have with the BIS team has really been insightful and informative, and it sort of asks those questions around, what's next in the financial sector and what should we be thinking about proactively as policymakers and as regulators. We know that technology moves at a rapid pace. And one way, to me, that central banks and financial sector regulators can try and stay on top of some of these things is to collaborate, and it is to collaborate with institutions like the BIS Innovation Hub, who have this extensive experience, who are then able to, share with us, guide us, and assist us in thinking critically around some of these issues. So it's really been invaluable, I think, to have this partnership with an institution like the BIS team, and also to challenge us to think differently about how we want to solve for these problems in South Africa as well.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. Wrapping up that conversation by Lyle Horsely, Head of Fintech at the South African Reserve Bank.